Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee and Crypto. We have our favorite special guest, Miles, with us, head of our research division at the Game Guild. And today we're going to talk about evio.
Oh, I love this game.
Right? And we just recently got into it as a guild. I mean, a lot of us have been playing it pretty consistently.
I played more than my share of it before
Right?
we acquired any NFTs in the game.
But we took the leap, so we got everyone geared up with the player skins. We also were recently involved in the sword minting, so now we have all the swords.
Love that.
Right? And they're just doing things right and different in a lot of ways. What were some of the things that you really enjoyed back when you first started playing before we took the leap?
I started playing evio. First of all, it was easy to start playing, and the reason why I started playing it is because somebody at some point in time in one of the other guilds, general chats, I think it was, they just posted a link. They're like, hey, try this game out. I was like, what do you mean? And we click the link and you can play. I'm like, okay. So I clicked the link and now I'm just dropped into like a pretty decent Halo shooter that doesn't require much resources that I can just play. There's no onboarding process. You can just play as a guest, and there's no like advantage to being somebody who owns anything in the game versus somebody who doesn't. If you're good at shooting games, you'll probably be a fish in water the moment you start. And I think that's really great. And the second thing I like really is that each game, depending on the game mode, is like really small and bite-sized. So if you're just in your idle time in some Discord somewhere with some fellows who are waiting for a meeting to start in 20 minutes, and let's play a game. You can play a game in 4 minutes.
That's something that really stood out to me too. You go to the website and instantly you're in a game playing. And it's like, wait, I didn't have to connect my wallet.
No, you didn't.
I didn't have to transfer Matic to my MetaMask.
You just click and you start playing. Yeah. It's as simple as that. You don't have to think about anything if you don't want to.
And I think about it for like onboarding people, because you could have a Web 2 person, they need no knowledge on Web 3, come play a game with you. And then all of a sudden they might start asking, well, what's this token and what's that? And then you can kind of explain it. Like you don't need to know Web 3 to play.
Yeah, and the circumstantial call to action is that there are people who play Web 2 games that play there's a lot of really competitive Web 2 shooters that people play. And then somebody in the Web 3 game will go, hey, why don't you play with us and play this game? And they'll go, okay, I'll try your game. There's nothing that they have to do or think about. They can just immediately go in there and try to play with the other guys. You know what I mean?
So there's
a lot of people. Yeah, they're bored. The onboarding is just instant there, and a lot of people who are not usually crypto people are effectively challenged to see if their skills hold up against this new crew.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so I'm finding a lot of people who are playing this game who are like, oh yeah, I entered that $10,000 tournament because I play tournaments in this game and I did pretty well. Yeah, and that's great because now they're suddenly looking at this world and like, this is viable.
And I think the Halo description's kind of close. Like I'd almost say Unreal too. Like
it's a mixture of Halo.
You could do like concussion grenade jumps, and there's like sliding.
It's very Quake-like. Yes. Anybody who is my age or older would know that it is very heavily based on Quake, down to the unstoppable and the double kill and monster kill and everything. It's Quake-like.
And I really like how they did the earning stuff. So basically, what it is you've got your weapons, and then you've got the player skins. And then they recently just released the swords. But it was interesting because with player skins, you can just have them equipped, and then you're always earning as you're playing just by equipping
you earn their
NFT.
token E.
Yeah, but it was different with the weapons. And I know you just learned something kind of interesting about this. Maybe we can talk about it. But the thing that prevented us a little bit as a guild jumping on the weapons is you needed to get kills with that weapon or use that specific weapon. So we didn't want to pigeonhole people like, okay, you have to use the automatic rifle.
It was clear to me also that the crew making this game didn't want to pigeonhole people in the way they have to play the game, because there's only 8 weapons in the game and a sword. And so if you have your particular playstyle with those weapons, then you want to utilize that playstyle, right?
Yeah.
Well, I discovered that if you do purchase a skin for a weapon, one of the starting weapons, and you have that starting weapon as your equipped starting weapon, but you happen to make a kill with a different weapon, well, that skin is still earning you currency, which means that maybe we did just mint a bunch of sword NFTs, and maybe a lot of us are working on our sword Ken so that we can be really good in this game, you know what I mean? And we love that. But if you are a person who doesn't want to get kills with your sword all the time, but you had a sword NFT, as long as you have that NFT skin equipped and you have the sword equipped, you will be able to earn those tokens. So
yeah, and let me clarify that. So basically with the player skin and the sword, you just have to have them on, you're always earning.
That's right.
But with the weapons, it's a little bit different.
You have to have the skin on, and you have to have that weapon, if it's a starting weapon, equipped. Now, for the skins that are for weapons that are not starting weapons, as I understand it, you have to collect the weapon that, for example, a shotgun, you have to collect that weapon, and it's more powerful than the 4 starting weapons. And if you had a skin for it, you would then be earning with that skin. I don't know if there even are skins for the non-starter weapons yet. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know either. I've only seen it for the starter weapons.
Yeah.
But I talked about this in their Discord, and what I really like about their Discord and their community, their admins are very helpful. Same with the moderators, even a lot of the other players.
The truth is, I was playing, and I think one of them tried to friend me, and I accidentally said no.
Oh, no.
So if you're out there and you tried to friend Bog Miles, please reach out to me because I am Bog Miles, and I would love to be your friend.
That's funny. But I really like how responsive they are, and I said that.
Yeah.
Front up, I was just like, hey, as a guild, it's way more attractive for us to buy player skins and swords because it's guaranteed earnings regardless of what weapons. And they agreed with me. They said, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so it's not an issue to them. This is by design.
Right.
They want that. And then when you kind of look into what the most popular weapons are, we were talking about this a little bit off screen earlier. The AR is hugely popular. Yeah. And it's the most expensive.
It's so clear to me that the weapons that the people who are at the top of the competitive scene are using are the ones that other people are trying to get and earn with, because those are the weapons that are what are considered to be the most effective. What's interesting about that is that I've actually seen people at the very highest level of play using all different kinds of weapons. And that says to me that if you're good enough at the weapon that you like, you'll be able to compete with them. So maybe those prices are a reflection of the popularity of those weapons, but not necessarily their ability in the battlefield.
That's a good point. And that's kind of why I decided as a game guild, I think we should get the swords, get the player skins, and let people settle into their favorite weapons first.
Right.
And I would recommend that probably for most other people getting into the game too. Like, feel it out, try all the different weapons, see what you like before you take that.
Well, example, take me. I'm a person who really likes to use my sword, but this is not Halo, and swords don't kill in one hit. So you would use your starter weapon as something to supplement the damage of your sword and then go for the killing strike with your sword. Well, the pistol in the game actually can kill somebody, can do 20, I believe it's 25 or is it 30 damage that it does in a single shot. And then the sword does 75 damage, which means that with a single shot from a pistol and a sword hit, you can kill somebody. So that would be the most effective way for me to utilize a sword. And if it's not going to be that, it'll be, another weapon that I'm more proficient with. And right now, the weapon that I'm finding that I'm the most proficient with is actually the auto rifle, because I'm not a super accurate shot. And so I would probably go for the auto rifle skin. That being said, the auto rifle skins are the most popular.
Yeah, they're like 7 to 9 soul.
And that makes them more expensive than the others.
And to put it in perspective, the pistols and everything else is like 3 all the way up to the ARs.
Now, speaking of the price of these NFTs, we also want to talk about earnings a little bit. And a lot of people have remarked to me that the earnings of the game are considerably lower than other games that are play to earn. It's clear to me that the development team of this game wants to make a stable incentive for people to earn and reinvest in the game or whatever it might be they want to do with their currency. But they're really focused on making a game that's fun first. And I know that because I played the game for probably for 60 plus hours before we even considered getting NFTs in the game. And I was like, I don't care if this game earns or not. I just love playing it. And it's so easy to access.
There's a couple things I'll add to that too. Like nothing to take away from the game and the developers, but that's a safe thing to do right now.
It's a very safe thing to do.
But if you look at most other play to earn projects, actually the earnings are kind of similar.
That's
true.
So
what I'm thinking is that's a good angle from PR to take. But really, as more liquidity comes back and we get next to our next bull run and people realize how popular this is, it's one of the top, if not the top SPF shooters. I feel like what we're building now for down the road, the value is going to be a lot higher.
So that also brings me to my next point. These guys have positioned their game or really made it in a way that, designed it in a way that there's a set amount of money that they have set aside as a company to put into the ecosystem for players to earn. That's 120,000 USD every year. In addition to whatever they make, a small percentage of whatever they make from their marketing campaign. And their marketing campaign is basically they've got ads inside of all their levels, and they're basically shilling anybody who will pay their price, and you can get your ad in a level in a really popular video game. Who doesn't want that kind of exposure? It's like a billboard. So that's working really well for them, and it's also working well for the players because the earnings are consistent and they know the liquidity is there. Now, the company has set this sort of value, I guess, for their token E. They say 10,000 of them can be redeemed for $5 USD, but I feel like if in the future they decide to make their NFTs purchasable and saleable for E on a marketplace, that action on the marketplace will have its sort of impact on the value of E further than your ability to just redeem it for $5 USD.
It's interesting because it is a different model. It's like they're saying they have a certain amount of
they're trying to regulate its price.
Yeah,
and they're using a recipe effectively to do that, and it's working. It's really great because
but here's
people
the
are not
here's
worried,
the counterpoint. Does it limit the opportunity for earnings? Because as liquidity comes and things start picking up for all these other games, are people going to move on because they're capped?
I would say yes. However, the counterpoint to that is, and it's really rare that there would be one, but there actually is one in this case. These guys are holding tournaments for like thousands of dollars already, and they're doing that with their advertisement money, not with their money that comes out of this earnings.
And there's sponsors too.
There's sponsors, and there's a lot of big names of people who play other games who are playing this game, and they've developed a meta, etc. So that be all the case, I think in the future with things growing in this game, where the opportunity is going to be to earn later on in this game is definitely going to be through like the esports scene, which they're trying to develop, and not necessarily through the base earnings of E.
And that's why we're interested, because in our game
the base
guild,
earnings of E will definitely be there to entice players to start playing.
Yes.
And then when they realize they can get good at the game and go to a fractal tournament and win $10,000 if they're great, that's what's going to incentivize them to keep playing and get great.
It was the esports angle that got us interested. Plus, also, we're always kind of looking for the top in a genre. And right now, it's very easy for me to list the top 3 FPSs. It's Eve.io, Meta Ops, and Forged Arena.
Yeah.
Those are the 3.
Plain and simple.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's for us as a game guild, we want to be involved in the ones that are most popular in a genre, because I feel like that's a smart move to do. That's just like you want to look for the top MMORPGs.
I should also shout out Delysium, even though it could.
That would be the 4th. That was on my mind too. But I was like,
I should shout it out.
Not there yet. Right? It's just a little.
But you're
too
absolutely
early.
right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And the esports angle is important to us, because our game guild, that's one of our focuses, is the competitive aspect, because we felt like a lot of other game guilds were just focused on the scholar model, and there was no competitive
these guys have an interesting model, because while it does sort of put the spotlight on really competitive and hardcore esports gaming, the game is so accessible and you can start from anywhere. So it's really clear to me that they want anybody to play this game and it to be easy to play but hard to master. And they've just got such a simple and elegant way of doing that.
Let's talk about the game modes, because that's perfect. Because there's a lot of fun ways. There's like a survival zombie thing.
So I've played a lot of that survival zombie game. I've gotten my personal best like almost 30 minutes. I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, but it's a very different style of play. I'm not really sure what the earnings are, but I don't care.
There's no earnings in survival yet. We figured out, but that's the thing that I kind of like.
So much fun.
It is, and what I like doing with the guys is we'll do a warm up survival before we jump into like deathmatch.
Yeah, it's a great way to warm up. Absolutely, I agree with you on that.
And they have like a battle arena mode, but I haven't played it yet.
So I've played their battle royale mode a pretty decent amount. Basically, the way that they've made it is that they have the same weapons, but they're a little bit nerfed in that, for example, when you play with the auto rifle as your starting weapon in the deathmatch mode, you'll notice that if you aim properly, it's a pretty bone straight shot. Okay. Well, and it does 11 damage per shot. But if you play and get a common auto rifle in the battle royale mode, you'll notice it's kind of a shaky shot and it does significantly less damage. And the reason for that is because they're trying to improve the survivability of people to have them sort of duke it out and not necessarily kill each other immediately as soon as they drop.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And it works with the same sort of shrinking zone type mechanic. There's lots of teleporters around their huge map. They've got one huge map that you basically want to get to know and know where the things are going to go and try to go to those places. And so then they'll naturally be highly contested areas where people know that power-ups are going to drop.
Cool.
And when I touch on the power-ups a little bit, you start with nothing. And you can sort of find the power-ups, the various power-ups you would usually find in the game. And if you find them en masse, like for example, if you find 4 teleport power-ups, you're going to be able to teleport 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Okay.
So, if you're a person who likes to teleport and you know where those things are, maybe your strategy is to go and get a couple of teleport power-ups, right?
Okay.
Or if you're a person who thinks that grenades are going to save you, then maybe you go to the place where you know your grenades are going to drop and try to find a grenade or something like that, right?
Well, it's interesting. It's attractive to like Apex Legends and Fortnite players and people who are generally playing that genre. And then I think, well, the team deathmatch is like attractive to Counter-Strike players and Call of Duty. And like, so the fact that they have all these different game modes.
And then really they have this other mode, and it's actually kind of important, even though it's not the mode that I play the most, it's important to me. It's called Mayhem mode. And basically, you have everything, and you start with a sniper rifle with unlimited bullets, and you can jump 10 times and teleport. Your teleports come back in like 3 seconds, and it's supposed to be like Super Saiyan God mode. Like
that's cool. Actually,
it's to the point where people who are good at this mode, like you start and you spawn in the sky falling. Some people are so good that they will just find a corner and just start sniping you in the head out of the sky, where you start falling and you just die. So you have to get to the point where you spawn and you have to start like jittering the way that you fall down so that people. So like I'll start falling, I'll teleport over here and then fall a bit and then teleport over so that somebody can't snipe me on the way down. Like it's ridiculous.
That's kind of
cool. And so as a result of that, you can really test the limits of what the game can do and what you might be able to do if you have the tools. You know what I mean?
I see.
And then you go to a different game mode and your tools are limited, but you're still able to do those things because you have those skills. So you might develop a new skill like I did. I realized that instead of using your repulsion grenade to jump, you can use a repulsion grenade to slide. And I only realized that because I accidentally did that in Mayhem mode. So,
oh,
you know what I
neat.
mean? That's a good place for you to try to test the limits of your skills. And that's
I'm
a cool
still
mode.
practicing the
No idea if it
concussion
earns, but again,
grenade.
I don't care. And that's really good because they want, I would
I
like,
want people to play all the modes.
I know that at a logical level, a game like this that's going to succeed has to have players that want to play it just because it's awesome.
Yes.
And
the popularity matters.
Yeah,
it
it's
really
super
does.
important. It's
Right?
super important.
And I think about that a lot with popularity of titles when liquidity comes back in. That's why I'm kind of interesting with them saying we have this much money to give to the player pool.
Well,
Because I think about a
yeah.
lot of benefits from that, and I also think about a lot of not so great things. Like, what if the game gets too popular and you just have a set amount of money? All the earnings are going to go down for everybody. But like I said, they're focusing on fun. They're trying not.
well,
to do
and their
that.
model
It's gonna be
supplements
interesting.
on like really scalar marketing. So if as they get more marketing deals and more sponsors,
Maybe they'll
and
just
more,
add more to the
they'll-
pool.
That's exactly what they're going to do. And there's actually a percentage of how much they're going to add. To
There
that
we
pool.
go.
So
Then that's
we know
perfect.
that the amount, the 120 plus, goodies is what it's going to be forever. And if this game becomes the next like Halo, then goodies is going to be a lot more than $120,000.
Okay, that was my
There's going to be
concern.
fat, tournaments that are going to go on. We know where that money's coming from and where it's going to go. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm so excited about this, because the money is not concerning to everybody. It can't go up or down. It can't go anywhere. It can only really go up if people get interested or go back down to base if they don't. But even if it does, which is where it's at right now, everybody's still really happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that reflects in the price of their NFTs too.
One other
So,
thing I'll mention, just to kind of quickly change topics, is how simple their lending system is. As someone managing
Yes.
multiple members in a guild, it was as simple as going to their /lend page. You have all your NFTs listed there. You simply search for a player by their name. Because
Right.
when you first play and you first go in, you're a guest. But then you can set up a profile and pick a name and all that.
Right.
And all I would do is find your guys' name, lend the NFT, pick the earning
I
percentage.
have a word for that.
So easy.
And it's a word that you will hear a lot if you're a person who went to, who does developing of anything like web apps, or if you're a person who does any sorts of programming. You want to make your programming elegant.
Yes.
And so I thought about that a lot. What does that really mean? Well, what that means is that, the solution is simple and it gets the job done.
Mm-hmm.
And so like a really good example is like Firestarter. You know what I mean? You can sort of waste your time rubbing and make a fire, or you can just get a small amount of Firestarter and you put a small amount of and it lights. It's simple.
That's a good
It's
analogy.
elegant, you know
I
what I
think
mean?
about it compared to a lot of other games, because as a game guild, just to put in perspective, some of the complexities with just the lending takes days to
Yeah.
learn. There's MetaMask wallets, private keys, hardware wallets. All of a sudden, you're doing multiple Google accounts. There's a
That's
lot
my
of
point. Yeah,
management
it's a
behind
big
the
fat
scenes.
monkey dance that you don't want to do.
Eve.io, simple.
Another good example would be like electricity technology. In the very beginning, people didn't really know where do I connect the things and how do I make it work. Well, now we just have a standardized plug.
That's right.
And you just plug the thing in, and you don't have to think about anything. It's all done for you, and that's elegance.
It is. So I'm really
And so yeah,
impressed
this
with that.
system, this game is the most, I would say, elegant of them all in the way that it's presented. Everything is intentional but simple.
Yeah,
And it gets
that's
the
a
job
great
done.
way to
It's
explain
intentional
it.
but simple, and it
I
gets the
think
job
that's
done.
why it's been so attractive to so many people.
Yeah.
Because it
It's
takes
very
away
elegant.
a lot of that complexity. It's just a fun game. You're able to jump in
You don't
right
even
away.
need a very powerful computer. It runs in your browser.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of people, it's like, wow, this game looks pretty good for a game that runs in my browser.
And there's been a lot of people with not so great computers, like who've told me,
Runs
hey, I have
flawlessly.
no problem
Yeah,
playing
it runs
this.
flawlessly. It's shocking to me.
Right? Which can be really good for, I know the earnings aren't that high, so people don't think about it from the scholar route, but that
It's
can be
good for
good.
reach. It's good for
Yes,
reach because
exactly.
the thing is, the use case I see for people playing this game is that there's going to be a lot of people who have 10 to 15 minutes wherever they might be, whether it's college or in meetings or at their house or at work. And they want to get in a game or two, and somebody sends them a link because everybody's in a group chat or whatever it might be. That circumstance, there's going to be a lot of those circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And those people are going to be on their business computer or on a loaned computer that they got from the institution that they're at or whatever it might be, and not necessarily on their big, juicy gaming computer all the time. And
That's a good
so
point.
those people won't have to worry if they can play this game or not, or if their profile is going to be safe or not. You just log in and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, it's very elegant, isn't it?
Something I'm not too sure about, and I don't want to misspeak because I really don't know. I haven't done research, but controller support. And
I have absolutely no idea
me
if it's
neither,
coming.
but I
But
would
when you
hope.
think about it, it would actually, to me, I think it might even be a limiting factor for some people because if you're using a control stick to turn left and right, you're subject to how quickly you can turn left and right.
Well, there's sensitivity,
So-
and I think about more so there are people who are.
But it's
clear
different with a mouse
preference.
because you can change the sensitivity. But the fact is, you can jerk your mouse to the left a certain amount, and then you'll be facing.
I
backwards.
prefer controller. This
You
is
know
a
what I
good
mean?
point. So for me, Counter-Strike player, I played competitively back in the day, 1.6 controller.
Really?
Yeah, mouse, keyboard, all the way. Right.
100%.
Call of Duty changed that for me. No more Counter-Strike, Call of Duty. I'm PlayStation controller. Now, all that I do, I play max sensitivity because I'm a sniper. So if I tap my control stick, I'm doing a 360.
Yeah.
But I just learn that sensitivity so I can control it
Yeah,
more.
no, the muscle control seems like
I
it would be
would
scary.
rather
wouldn't it?
go. It just takes time to learn.
I guess
but
so.
if you give me controller support,
I
I'm
guess
all in.
so.
I'm
I'm sure
all-
there's a bunch of people who are going to be in the comments like, no, controllers are the best. You have no idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
It's a
And-
preference thing.
Disclaimer, you're probably right and I'm probably wrong. I'm not the best at first-person shooters, but this is the first-person
think it's a
shooter I've
preference.
played in a long time that has made me want to get better at first-person shooters, even though I'm bad at them. And I've gotten pretty okay. So
And I like the
I don't
mouse and
know.
keyboard. Don't get me wrong. I think
Yeah.
it is just a preference thing.
I think so for
you know.
sure.
And there's
yeah.
been a couple people we've talked to in the guild, same thing. They're like, "Oh, I wish I could use a controller. I'm so used to that." So it's almost just kind of like,
I want to see them unlock their true potential. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like what's your disposition towards?
Yeah.
Oh, I've used controllers my
Well,
whole
we'll
life.
just have to talk to their team. They seem to be pretty responsive.
They will. That's something I'm going to look into. Is
Yeah.
that something they're thinking of? And I'm sure
certain
it's a
that it
question
is.
that
I
comes
feel
up.
like somebody has told me that it is, but that's not. That's just my brain.
It's like hearsay at this point.
yeah,
There
that's
hasn't
hearsay.
been an
It's not,
official
it's
anything.
not confirmed, but I feel like it's gonna happen.
Now, one thing that I was impressed with was how they did the minting. So that's something that I look at with a lot of projects because shit can get bananas when it comes to
Yeah,
minting.
an
and
elegant mint shows that they know what they're doing.
bots can come in and there's just a lot of craziness that can happen. So they had these different tiers where they reserved a certain amount. There's only 2,500 first edition swords that were available.
That's super cool to me.
Right?
If you ever, just as somebody who knows that people can collect swords and things like that, these are something that
2,500.
that's
That's
pretty
it.
cool. I've got
and it
one
was
of the
on
legendary swords.
August 19th, and they had different batches. And I don't remember all of them, but I remember a couple. There was the guild only batch. So if you registered yourself as a guild and went through the official channels, there was like, I think 300 or so. And then there was the whitelists. Now the whitelists
so they
were
did
really
staggered
cool.
smaller mints.
They did, and they kind of changed it. But what I really liked about the whitelist one, which is kind of funny how they did this, and I'll mention kind of an issue that came up, but not a bad thing, is depending on how you had contributed or what you had done in the server, you could get a whitelist. So for us, I was able to get the 5+ NFT role in the server because of the guild.
Right.
So right away, naturally, we could get whitelists for the swords because we had that.
Right.
But then also, if
One
you
for all.
boosted the server, you could get 2 whitelists. So it's funny. I don't know if this is dependent on their server, but it seemed like Discord changed Nitro that when you boost, it's for like a year now, not
Yeah.
just a month.
No.
And it was like $34.99.
When I boosted Heroes of Mafia, I thought I was going to have to boost them every month, but it stayed boosted.
It's like
and
a
I'm
year.
How long
So
does
what
it stay
happened is all
boosted?
these people started boosting their server when they didn't need the boost anymore. And they
Yeah.
kind of did like a oops message. They're like, hey, we're going to honor all those whitelists. We didn't need hundreds of boosts, but thank you.
Yeah,
but it
we
was,
appreciate
But
it.
it was really cool how they were like giving out whitelists to people who had contributed in different roles. And I really liked that. And they
I
staggered
actually
it.
wanted to talk about that just for a second.
Sure.
It seems like projects are shifting towards this idea of we can get a lot of hands interested in our project if maybe we give away a few NFTs for these. You know what I mean? And so they're finding clever ways to reward people with NFTs.
It's
without
a
having
good form of
to
marketing.
get, but they have to do it to the right people. And it seems like
Yes.
this is the way that they're doing it. They're getting people to engage in a particular way to prove that they're actually people who want to do this. And then those people are getting rewarded with NFTs.
Yes.
Those people will then try their project and tell all their friends about it, and that's how they gain
It's
traction.
a form of
It's a great
guerrilla
idea.
marketing. I mean,
It's a really
you're
nice
very
way.
limited though.
It's a really benevolent form.
It is. It's very limiting though. There's only so much one-to-one interactions you can do.
That's
Where
right.
you need to eventually go one to masses. But
That's
it's a
right.
great start.
It's the way to get your seedlings into the ground before you want to
It
grow
is.
roots. You know.
One other thing I want to mention, because I realize we could probably talk about this way more, but we're running out of time, is just how badass the characters look with the
Oh,
skins
I
and the
know.
swords.
I
Like
know. I
the
love
detail
it.
they put into that was just
I also love how
man.
everything is simple. There's not that many controls, not that many things to change, not that many weapons. But if you really know what you're doing, you can really develop a style in that game.
Yeah,
and
you
I really
can.
feel like I've developed a style in that game,
That's awesome.
and that makes me feel good. And so I enjoy playing it. And it's hard to make that in a game so simple and it's just so elegant.
It is. It did a good job. It's funny. I'm probably going to ask you if we want to play that once we're done this show. here.
Probably a little bit. Yeah, I'd say a little bit for sure.
Well, it's great having you on as always. Thank you so much for sharing your
thanks for
knowledge.
having me.
This has been a ton of fun. And if you guys have any questions about ev.io, be sure to join our Discord. We always have our voice chat going where you can jump in and join us for some games. We're happy to help you along if you have any questions. Thanks so much for joining us today. Cheers.